Hello and welcome to this Friday edition of the World Report, viewers. I'm Arjun, Samar, Mahendran, and here are the top updates from the world today. Now, first up, let's take you to the latest updates coming in from the West Asia crisis. You see, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian has said that the US naval siege of Iranian ports amounts to an extension of military operations by Washington and is intolerable. On the other side of the aisle, US President Donald Trump has said that we might need to restart the war with Iran. He's added that nobody knows what the talks are except myself and a couple of other people. Meanwhile, Israeli attacks on southern Lebanon have killed more than 30 people in a single day. That's right. Lebanon's national news agency has reported, and it's also reporting that further undermining the US-backed ceasefire between the Lebanese government and Israel. That's what it's alleging the Netanyahu government of doing. Meanwhile, as tensions continue to simmer along the Israel-Lebanon border, the fragile ceasefire is now under growing strain, with fresh concerns of a wider escalation. This report tells you more.
The fragile ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon is undergoing strain, as the US-brokered ceasefire is only being partially observed, with both the sides accusing each other of violating it. In an interview to Axios, US President Donald Trump has urged Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to scale back military action in a bid to avoid a full resumption of war, and has told Bibi that Israel should only take surgical military action in Lebanon. Tensions remain high along the Israel-Lebanon border, where daily exchanges of fire threaten to unravel a ceasefire which is set to expire on May 17th. Fighting continues, with Israeli airstrikes targeting Hezbollah, including in southern Lebanon, while Hezbollah maintains rocket fire by launching drones towards Israeli troops and border communities. Washington is now pushing for restraint, with reports suggesting that Trump spoke with Bibi every day this week, urging Israel to show restraint and give space to the new diplomatic process with Lebanon. Meanwhile, the Lebanese leadership is facing pressure from the US to isolate and weaken Hezbollah, along with domestic pressure over Israel's occupation of southern Lebanon. As of now, the initial 10-day ceasefire announced on April 16th has been extended for an additional 3 weeks to facilitate further diplomatic discussions. But with violations mounting and trust rapidly eroding, the window for diplomacy is narrowing, raising fears that without immediate de-escalation, the region could once again slide into a broader and more dangerous conflict.
Israeli forces near the southern Greek island of Crete intercepted more than 20 boats early Thursday from a flotilla of several dozen seeking to break Israel's naval blockade of Gaza and plan to transport about 175 detained activists to Greece. Now, activists on board the global Sumud flotilla said Israeli forces stormed their vessels overnight, smashing engines and detaining some of those on board while they were sailing in international waters near Greece, hundreds of kilometers from Gaza and Israel.
Israel can and will subsequently be transferred to the Gaza Strip. You're required to change your course. Any further attempt to sail toward Gaza places your safety at risk and leaves the IDF no choice but to take all necessary measures at its disposal to enforce the lawful maritime security blockade.
Hey! Hey! Move!
We take you to the US, where federal prosecutors have released a video on Thursday showing Cole Thomas Allen running through the censor gates, firing at a policeman as he rushed towards the ballroom where President Donald Trump was attending the April 25th White House Correspondents' Dinner for the first time in his 2 terms. Here's a special report telling you more.
A confrontation that unfolded in just 4 seconds, but could have changed everything. A new video of the recent White House shooting begins with the suspect pacing near a security perimeter. Then, in a sudden escalation, he breezes past heavily armed Secret Service officers. He raises his weapon swiftly. The suspect fires first, a single sharp flash, with the bullet cutting through the air toward a responding officer. The officer, who was reportedly struck in the protective vest, remained on his feet. What follows is a rapid, desperate response. 3 shots. The officer fires back once, twice, 3 times in quick succession. But in the chaos, all 3 shots seemingly missed their target, as the authorities say the gunman was not shot during the attack. Amid friendly fire claims, Jeanine Pirro, the US Attorney for the District of Columbia, posted the video on X saying there is no evidence the shooting was a result of a friendly fire. The footage also shows the suspect surveilling the hotel a day before the gala dinner. He also briefly entered the hotel gym. 4 seconds from the first trigger pull to the final return fire. The entire exchange is over almost as quickly as it began. A routine security watch turned into a moment of sheer vulnerability. Vishal Vivek for NDTV World.
Well, we stay with the US, where Elon Musk on Thursday sparred with an attorney for OpenAI during his 3rd day of testimony in the contentious trial over the company's pivot from non-profit status to a for-profit venture valued at hundreds of billions of dollars, to say the least. Now, the trial centers on the 2015 birth of ChatGPT Maker as a non-profit startup primarily funded, by Elon Musk. It pits the world's richest man against Sam Altman, a fellow OpenAI co-founder. He accuses, in fact, of betraying promises to keep this company as a non-profit dedicated to humanity's benefit. We get you a snippet of that exchange.
I'll only say that there have been a lot of claims that a charity was stolen, and we believe and now know that the evidence is going to show that the OpenAI Foundation has been in command of OpenAI from the beginning. It remains in control of the organization. It is one of the best capitalized and most ambitious not-for-profits in the world, and it's going to do great things. Nothing's been stolen. What's happened is that birth has been given to a spectacular not-for-profit.
Argentinian President Javier Milei on Thursday visited a joint military exercise organized by the U.S. Southern Command and the U.S. Embassy in Argentina aboard the aircraft carrier USS Nimitz. The vessel was located south of the city of Mar del Plata, Buenos Aires province, as part of the PASIX 2026 naval exercises between the two countries. You see, the operations are part of the Southern Seas 2026 deployment to the region, marking the 11th iteration of the exercise to the region since 2007. Britain's King Charles III arrived in Bermuda on Thursday for his first visit to a British overseas territory as king. The governor to Bermuda, Andrew Murdoch, and other officials welcomed the king on his arrival at Babe International Airport. His program includes a meet and greet with Commonwealth athletes ahead of their participation in the Summer Glasgow Commonwealth Games, as well as members of the youth organisation from across the island. Venezuela's acting president Delcy Rodriguez announced Thursday an increase of what the government called integral minimum income. It's a mix of base salary and bonuses used to compensate workers in the country. Speaking at a pro-government rally in capital Caracas, Rodriguez said the monthly income would be equivalent to $240 starting the 1st of May. However, she did not clarify whether the official minimum wage, which by the way has remained unchanged for 4 years, would also be increased. The long-awaited trade deal between South American bloc Mercosur and European Union takes effect Friday, at least provisionally. The initiative creates a transatlantic market estimated in $22 trillion with 720 million potential consumers. And while some nations expecting to boost their exports in more than 10% by 2038 once it is fully implemented. The trade deal was signed January 17th at a meeting of South American groups that includes Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay. 8 weeks of war in West Asia, viewers, and now the front line, well, it's moved to your grocery cart. That's right, from keyboards all the way to cosmetics and much more. There's a massive petrochemical crunch which is sending plastic prices into orbit. Why the cheap alternative is suddenly a luxury your wallet can't afford? Well, this is the global plastic shock, and here's the report.
United States-Iran war has hit the markets again. This time over plastic. The cheap packaging alternative is now facing a price hike. Why? Because West Asia is also a critical source of petrochemicals used to make plastics. It is a core material for over 6,000 consumer products. From computer keyboards to lipstick, from tennis rackets to contact lenses. It is used in a variety of products. With global oil supply disruptions now in their 8th week, higher production costs have now hit the price of plastic.
Basically, the prices are now very high, doubled than they were like 2 months ago. And the second thing is supply chain. I mean, the logistic and the transportation, especially these days, it's too long. It's more than 2 months.
But which countries does it impact? In Asia, India is heavily impacted due to reliance on West Asian raw materials, with polymer-based products seeing a potential 50 to 60% price jump. South Korea is exceptionally vulnerable because it imports roughly 73% of its naphtha and 69% of its crude oil from the Middle East. Japan is also expected to see the price of domestically produced naphtha rise from 30% to 40% in the future. China, despite being a massive plastic producer, is vulnerable to the spike in raw material cost for its coastal manufacturers. European countries including Germany, Italy, Poland are high importers of finished polypropylene and raw materials, with low input momentum making them susceptible to price shocks. With plastic price hike hitting domestic markets, the once cheap oil-linked raw material is no longer a stable option.
하기 불편하지. 없어서 너무 힘들어요. 필요한데 없다고 안 주잖아요. 가게에서. 그거 어떻게 해야 돼요?
This now forces the entire industry, especially in Asian and European nations, to rethink their reliance on plastic. Bureau Report, NDTV World.
We take you to Myanmar, where the military junta has moved ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi from prison to house arrest, citing a mass amnesty for a local holiday. That side, the 80-year-old sentence has also been reduced. For the first time in 3 years, state media released a photo showing her seated across from two uniformed officials. Suu Kyi has been held in isolation since the 2021 coup. This is the first official image made public since her court appearance over 3 years ago. While her sentence is now shorter, her exact location remains unknown. The military, meanwhile, says the move is humanitarian, though international pressure still remains high. Chaos erupted near the U.S. Embassy in Manila on Friday as Labor Day protests turned into violent clashes with the cops. Thousands of workers flooded the streets demanding immediate wage hikes to combat soaring fuel and food costs. The demonstration took a political turn as activists paraded a massive three-headed effigy as well. Now, the display targeted leaders of the US, Israel and the Philippines, blaming their policies for global instability and local economic pain. While the May Day has been a national holiday here since 1908, the mood this year is exceptionally tense. Protesters are calling for an end to the Middle East conflicts, saying that they are driving up prices at home. And well, with that, it's time we step into a short break. Much more lined up on the other side. Don't you go anywhere. Welcome back, viewers. We shift our gaze to Latin America, where Cuba is facing a severe humanitarian crisis marked by energy shortages, failed water systems, and, of course, limited fuel distribution, as we've been seeing. And it's largely driven by the tightened U.S. sanctions under Trump, which the government describes as a besieged state. Despite these challenges, the Cuban leadership, it refuses to surrender. It's setting up a continuous struggle for survival for its citizens. Here's the report.
The Cold War era may be gone, but Cuba is still stuck with crisis. This is what the island nation looks like right now. Shortages of water, power cuts,
energy crisis, and a cash crunch.
This has made many to move to primitive times, forcing them to travel by cycles and boats. Why is this happening? Because of Donald Trump's energy blockade. He's trying to break the country into coercion.
Well, we're going to see with Cuba. Cuba's another story. Cuba's been a terribly run country for a long time. It's got a bad system. It's been very oppressive, as you know. And we have a lot of great Cuban Americans, all of whom just about voted for me. And they were treated very badly. In many cases, family members have been killed. They've been beaten up and mugged, and terrible things happened in Cuba. And Cuba's a failing nation. And we're going to do this. And we may stop by Cuba after we're finished with this. But Cuba is a nation that was just been horribly run for many years by Castro.
Cuba under Castro's successors is a much smaller and weaker rival. It has no oil, no rare earths, and no major natural resources. Daily life has been upended. The fuel shortage is disrupting water systems and food distribution across the island. Litter is piling up in Havana because rubbish trucks lack fuel. Hospitals are limiting surgeries. Public transport has been reduced. Many have even started to use wood fires to cook and heat water. Yet the government still clings against all odds to a threat of retaliation, the price for which the Cuban citizens have to pay.
There is no any reason for a military aggression against Cuba. But if something like this happens, we are ready to fight back. Cuba has been fighting for its independence not since 1959, since 1868.
As the country grapples with these challenging times, citizens have been forced to change their routines.
Yo tengo el carro estacionado en mi casa, solo lo utilizo en caso de emergencia, ¿no? Asistir a algún vecino, la misma familia.
However, this does not seem enough to force the Cuban leadership to step down.
Cuban President Canal has strongly responded to President Trump's comment, calling Cuba a failing state.
No, señores de la manipulación y la mentira. Cuba no es un estado fallido. Cuba es un estado cercado. Cuba es un estado enfrentado a una agresión multidimensional, guerra económica, bloqueo recrudecido y bloqueo energético. Cuba es un estado amenazado que no se rinde.
With the Cuban population already struggling to survive, it is yet to be seen how will the country maintain a fight for survival and simultaneously retaliate against the US sanctions.
I shift our focus to India now, where public opinion polling company Today's Chanakya has released its analysis for key assembly elections in Indian states of West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Assam and Kerala. You see, the TMC Plus is expected to be relegated to 100 around at a loss of 11, at a gain or loss of 11 seats with 38% vote share. This marks a major setback for the incumbent government. The BJP, Today's Chanakya predicted, could get 192 seats. The DMK-led alliance appears to retain power in the state of Tamil Nadu, but the headline is that the dramatic entry of actor Vijay's TVK party. In Assam, the BJP is projected to maintain its iron grip. The pollster predicts a massive majority for the NDA with 102 seats, plus or minus 9 seats, and a staggering 50% of vote shares, indicating total consolidation of the electorate behind the incumbent government. We now take you back to the States, where the Devil Wear Prada 2 actors Emily Blunt and Stanley Tucci recently received the 2,841st and the 2,842nd stars in the Hollywood Walk of Fame during a joint ceremony held on Thursday. The event was held on the Hollywood Boulevard ahead of the Devil's Wear Prada 2 release. The two actors, who frequently collaborate in films and are in-laws, by the way, joined the podium to speak to the group of prominent celebrities and family members who were there to support them.
You're right. Emily in the corner.
Well, with that, it's time we step into a short break. News and updates continue on the other side. Don't you go anywhere.